Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Montessori Lives, conversations with notable Montessorians. And this evening, we're very lucky to have with us Rami Nassif, who is CEO of Montessori Academy, the largest provider of Montessori education in Australia. Um, Rami, I feel very fortunate to have you this evening. You're notoriously difficult to pin down. Um, and also you don't give much away. So, it's taken 2 years since I first asked you if I could interview you to get you on here. So I feel very fortunate to have you. So thank you for taking the time this evening. Let's start with your Montessori story. How did you discover Montessori?
Well, hello, Mark, and thank you for the kind introduction. I apologize for giving you such a hard time over the last 2 years. Well, my Montessori story, Mark, is a bit unconventional. I actually came from a background in telecommunication engineering. So in 2016, I was offered a role to join Montessori Academy as the group general manager. At first, I hesitated. I mean, what did I know about working in education, let alone Montessori? But here's where it gets interesting. This opportunity came right when my wife and I were expecting our first child, Marita. I remember telling my wife about the offer, saying, of course, I'm not going to take it. But she surprised me. She said, imagine being able to be directly involved in our children's education, having an impact of what that education will look like. That was a light bulb moment for me. I started thinking about the impact that I was making as an IT engineer, which is important, don't get me wrong. But then I thought about the potential impact I could have, not just on my own children, but on the lives of many more children. So I decided to check it out. I joined a few meetings at Montessori Academy while I was still at my other workplace to see what their vision was and if it was aligned with my values. And I've got to tell you, I really was amazed. I saw this team of founders, area managers, Montessori trainers, all working together towards a common goal, providing the best they could for children. The discussion were not about business. The discussions were not about money. The discussion was about how do we provide the best we can for children and how do we continually improve and how do we make this education accessible to as many children as possible. That was Colette's vision from day one. How do I make Montessori education accessible to as many children as possible? That's when I knew I had to be part of this. So
Mhm.
it just resonated. I jumped ship, and the rest is history. So that's been 8 years now.
8 years. So why do parents come to your organization in such large numbers? Is it
Hmm.
the quality product or is it really the power of advertising?
No, well, great question, Mark. I mean, look, nobody can underestimate the power of advertising. It's certainly a tool we use to reach out to families to let them know about services like our services. But here's the thing, advertising without a quality product can only lead to short-term gains and long-term losses. It's not a sustainable business model, and it's definitely not what we're about at Montessori Academy. I think the key to our success, I believe, is delivering what we promise. We've we've committed to providing, high quality Montessori education, and we work hard to make sure that we're living up to that commitment every single day. We're also humble also to acknowledge, when we get something wrong, we learn from our mistake and we continue to strive to improve and do better. I think you can never say, I've reached the top and I'm doing everything right and that's it. I'm just going to leave things as they are. You just need to go back and reassess what you're doing and see what's working and what's not working and get feedback from your team, from your parents, from the children themselves. And it never stops. It's just a vicious cycle that would never stop. You just need to keep looking into what you're doing and continually improving. And I think what really tells the story here is that a very large proportion of our families who come to us do not come through paid advertising at all. They come through word of mouth.
Mhm.
And a happy family recommending another family to us, I think that's the best form of advertising that you can get.
Yeah. Can you describe the growth of Montessori Academy in the 8 years since you've been there?
Yes, yes. I think when I joined, Montessori Academy had 19 campuses, I believe, at that time. And out of these 19, there were 6 or 8 that had opened that year. So that was the first year or two where Montessori had significant growth. Like it started in the year 2000, and it took a long time to get to 19 centers. So basically 16 years to get to 19 centers. And then since then, we we have grown to 55 centers today that are operating. There's, I think, 14 or 15 centers being built at the moment, another 20 in the pipeline. So there's a very large of centers coming. But the journey's been exciting, rewarding, had its challenges. But I'm very glad I did that career turn.
Mm. You described some of the keys to that growth, the focus on quality, reflecting um, on what's going well and what's not working well, and
Mm,
improving constantly. What have been some of the notable challenges of your in your life building that
mm.
organization?
Look, I mean, as I said, it's been a really incredible journey, and I have to emphasize that this is not just about me or any other single person, really. It's about the team. It's a team effort that has done this. So I don't think any of us can say, I've built Montessori. I mean, I've come in halfway as the COO. Charles is the CEO of Montessori, but it's not about one person, it's about the whole team. We've changed, we've faced challenges along the way, and I think that's pretty normal in any fast growing venture. But I think the most significant one for me, or the most important one, is balancing that growth with quality. um, I think that was key. That's where most of our focus went, and the team's focus. We're growing. How do we maintain that quality that we've established over the last 16 years, and how do we make sure it is consistent for the remaining centers that are coming? And that's something that we reflect on every single day now. Other challenges was obviously regulatory hurdles, but eventually you get the hang of that. And
Yeah,
I'm sure that's a topic that will come up, but finding qualified and quality educators that would come and work with you,
yeah.
that share the same mission, vision, passion.
How do you find
Um,
trained staff? I mean, that's constantly what we hear as a bottleneck in the growth of Montessori is finding trained staff. How do you, with your rapid growth, how do you find enough
mm.
trained staff?
Yeah, a great question, Mark. I mean, finding enough trained staff is a challenge, and I think it would be virtually impossible to find thousands of Montessori trained staff ready to go. I mean, if you bring everyone from neighboring countries, it's still very hard to
Yeah.
just cater for the demand that we need at
How
Montessori
many
Academy.
staff do you
But
have? What are your numbers for employees?
over 2,000.
Wow.
Including our part-timers and casual pool, it's over 2,000 staff, so very large number. But I think step
Maybe
one
that's why
was
that
we
maybe that's why there's a shortage of Montessori trained educators in Australia because they all work for Montessori Academy.
That's funny. I think, look, first thing is we strive to be a workplace of choice. So we don't compromise on the quality of our resources or our offering. And we try to support the team as much as possible. So this helps us to attract and retain the top talent. But as I said, it's virtually impossible to find thousands of trained and ready to go staff. So we've taken matters into our own hands. That was the solution. The solution was to develop our own training program using our own registered training organization, the Australian Montessori College. And we embed, the training into our day-to-day operations. So everything is about training on and continuous development. If we in our team meetings, there's a training session. Everybody's got access to online training that we've developed. We hold all these different webinars that everyone can join. We've got a large team of Montessori trainers doing, face-to-face trainings. We visit the centers, we train. Everything we do is about training and continuously training the team to make sure that they're up to the standard where they need to be, so that they can work with the Montessori equipment and understand the Montessori philosophy. And that just creates that culture of ongoing professional development, which is really crucial in education.
That is such a crucial point because often centers and schools, they'll wait to do training until a trainer is available or comes to the center or some speaker comes to the center, but you've got it integrated into your operation so that continuous improvement is a part of daily practice. How many trainers do you have in the organization?
10 at the moment.
And wow. Do you have any advice for educational decision makers in the industry?
Good question. I do. I think, to put it simply, my advice would be put children first, and the rest will sort itself out. And when I say this, I don't mean, to oversimplify things, or, to say forget about every other business sense or the practical realities. What I mean is, do not put business and growth first. Make your decisions with the children's best interest at the forefront. And that's what we've done. And look, it's, as I said before, it's taken us 24 years to get to where we are today. So from the outside, it might look like, oh wow, these guys have grown very fast, and look, they've got 55 centers. But if you think about it, it is not very fast. It's been a steady child-focused journey. It's been 24 years where we've been building this company to get to where we are today. But the vision has always been put the children first. The first question that we ask in management meeting is, there anything that we need to know? Have we done anything, or has anything happened that has impacted the children in a negative way? What do we need to do to make sure that the children are getting the best education? And before we speak about education, we speak about safety. Safety, education, everything else comes after that. So I think if you want to make a decision, if you just ask yourself, is this decision in the best interest of the children? If you can answer yes, then you're probably on the right track.
Rami, I've got to say I'm a big fan of what you're doing at Montessori Academy, and I'll tell you why. Last October, we had a national conference in Sydney, and we had a speaker from the US who was one of my mentors, and I hadn't seen him for probably 10 years. And so I was driving him around Sydney. It was great to see him again. And I was telling him about Sydney. He was telling him about Sydney and living in Australia after I had lived in the US for so long. And all of a sudden, he just looked up and pointed at this huge yellow sign that had Montessori on it. And I read it, and it was a Montessori Academy advertisement. And that kind of visibility comes with a for-profit enterprise. There's no way that Montessori Australia would have been able to pay for an advertisement in the rocks like that. Some Montessori purists would look down on large for-profit providers like yours and others in the EC sector, saying that it must be about profit rather than about the well-being of children. What would you say to that?
Again, very good question. And look, I think basic principles of business is, a business has to make a profit to be able to be sustainable. And I think making a profit is not a bad thing. Making a profit and using it for a good cause and reinvesting it in the business is actually a great thing, because, as you said, but by having that sign up, we're able to bring, to shed a light, and people would go, okay, what is Montessori education? What is Montessori Academy? And then they'd go on Google, and that doesn't just benefit Montessori Academy, that benefits the entire Montessori community to say, okay, what's Montessori? And I think that plays a crucial role in bringing that awareness to life. But again, going back to the profit space, I think if, any provider that just works for profit, and if you think about, if you're just taking all that profit out and not reinvesting it in your business, then we wouldn't be where we are today. I would say close to 90 or more % of the profits are getting reinvested in the business. And that is to meet, the goal or the mission of, of Colette, basically providing Montessori education to as many children as possible. And I'm sure we'll probably touch on this, but from our view, that demand is massive, because as happy parents talk to other parents and say, my child goes to a Montessori school, and we get asked for for spots. And sometimes we get approached, an expo saying, "Oh, why don't you open here and here and here?" And you just can't keep up. It's virtually impossible to actually open all these centers in a short time frame. So hopefully in about another 20 years, we'll be everywhere. It's funny. Once in one of our galas, I made a promise to the team, and I said, "Look, one day wherever you live, there'll be a Montessori Academy near you." And this was probably 6, 7 years ago. And I think in Sydney, we're almost there. I mean, there is somehow a Montessori Academy within a 15, 20 minutes drive to most people. But yeah, we'll see where the road takes us.
Yeah. In opening all the centers that you're opening, what are some of the desirable skills and talents that you look for in prospective employees or team members?
Good question. I think, look, from my perspective, when we're interviewing or when we want to hire someone, I think skills can always come later. Obviously, having someone that's Montessori trained, and look, I've actually rejected, or we have actually rejected a lot of applicants that are Montessori trained and hold Montessori qualifications, but then when we interviewed them, they were not the right fit. We think it's all about the qualities of someone, having the right attitude and caring and sharing the same values as us, which is one of our core values is every child is a miracle. So basically, again, putting the children first. For us, it's that care factor when we interview, candidates, and the attitude to be willing to learn. And I think that can take anyone that joins us to places. Look, as an example, we've had one of our best area managers. They're all great, but started with us as a trainee. She had no experience in childcare whatsoever. When we hired her, we thought, what this person is caring and has got the right attitude, and she has actually moved through the ranks so quickly that she oversees 10 centers or however number of centers today, and she's just amazing. So I think that's the most important thing for us.
Mm.
Skills come later.
I think that's one of the characteristics of the transformed teacher. One of the big, most difficult aspects of Montessori training is the transformation of the adult and the ability for adults to put aside their own egos and to see that each child as a miracle, as you said, to see each child as they are. How do you see that in an adult? How do you identify that attitude in prospective employees?
Look, I don't interview every single educator. Obviously, that's coming on board, but obviously we've got a very large team that does that, and they know how to find this. But for me, anytime that we're interviewing any leader coming into the organization, so I always like to meet any center manager or any trainer or any area manager that we're promoting internally or that's joining us from outside, and I never ask them a technical question. So they go through all the initial interviews, they get vetted by the different teams, and when there is a final sign off from whoever that wants to hire them, said, let me just catch up with them for a coffee, whether it's face to face or online. And my questions are just to try and understand, their values and if they are aligned with what we think. So I don't want to know if they know how to roster. I don't want to know if they understand the regulation that's been vetted before. I just want to make sure that they are the right fit to come work with us towards
Yeah,
that goal of putting children first. And again, as I said before, the rest will sort itself out.
yeah. So what about center managers? What advice do you give your new center managers?
Build up your team, be close to your team. Do
Mm,
not sit in the office. This job is not for someone to sit in the office. Be with your team, be in the classroom, understand what is happening, help them, mentor them, be there for them. And if you need anything or if you're stuck, do not be afraid to reach out and ask for help. That's the main thing. No question is a stupid question.
mm,
Do reach out and ask for help. And if you need the help, we'll send you the help. But I think the most important thing is be there for the team, for the children, for the families. Let everybody see you. Let them know that you're part of that team. You're not just a manager sitting behind the desk answering emails. That's something that anybody can do. But being a people's person, being with your team on the ground, I think that's the most important thing. When I
That's
go
great
visit
advice.
centers,
Yeah.
when I go visit centers, I make it a point to go and talk to every single person. I want to know what our kitchen hand needs. I want to know what our chef needs. I want to know what the room leader needs, and I want to know what the teacher assistant needs. I need to know. I want to talk to every single person and hear from them and know their thoughts.
Yeah. I like the saying that, how real estate is about location, location, location.
Mm-hmm.
Education is about connection, 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 and relationship building. Yeah,
Agreed.
you hit it on the nail on the head there. Um, so in running such a large organization yourself, how do you manage that work-life balance for yourself?
That that's
Your relationships with
that's
your family, it must be taxing.
it's look. It definitely was more taxing when I was in the IT business.
Mm,
Um, Coming into childcare or early childhood education, it is taxing, but I think it's about building the team that you trust, and it's about ensuring that your team, you and your team are aligned. It's building that alignment to make sure that you're all on the same page. So for me, I I make it a point never to miss anything that is of significant importance to my children, no matter how simple it is. I make sure that I am there. I don't miss a concert, no matter what time it is. I don't miss I don't miss anything. I'm always there. And I know a lot of people say one of the disadvantages today is that we're too connected. I actually find that it's the other way around for me. So I love to be there, for them. But then before the event starts, I've got my laptop with me and I'm doing what I need to do. But then I check out for that half an hour of the event and then I'm back in the office. So this is how I manage it. And then I ensure that when I come home, my phone is in the bedroom, not in the living room. And
mm,
I'm spending time with my family, quality time with my family. And I know if someone needs to reach me, they reach me, but I'm not sitting there. I am fully focused on work, 9 to 5, and I'm fully focused on family,
oh,
5 to until my children sleep.
miracle dad.
Trying
You,
to be, trying to be.
yeah.
Mark, there's an issue with my charger. Bear with me just to see why my laptop is about to turn off.
Okay.
Okay, that's sorted. There we go.
So is there a book that you would recommend to other educators
Um,
or
look, I think,
on any topic?
look, I mean, I'm guessing this recommendation would not come as a surprise, but I'm guessing The Absorbent Mind. Everyone would have read that book or is planning to read that book. And I think The Absorbent Mind really reinforces the importance of our mission. It just reminds us, that the early years are critical for a child's development and that our role is to provide an environment that nurtures each child's potential. But another book that I really love that I'd highly recommend for for anyone to read is The Atomic Habits by James Clear. I'm not sure if you've read that book before. It's not specifically about Montessori education, but its principles align remarkably with our approach. So the core concept of atomic habits is that small incremental changes can lead to remarkable results over time. So
Mm,
this resonates strongly, I think, with the Montessori method. And I think Atomic Habits offers really valuable insights for both professional growth or development and organizational growth.
oh,
I really
good.
recommend that book to a lot of people. And look, I personally do not have time to sit and flick a page. So what I do is during my commute, I just run Audible. So basically, I listen to
Audiobooks, yeah.
ebooks. So I've got a 40-minute commute in the morning, 40-minute commute in the afternoon. If I'm going to different things, that's when I'm listening to different books. But yeah, I highly recommend Atomic Habits.
Yeah. Uh, thank you. I haven't heard of that one. I'll look it up. So changing emphasis a bit to the bigger picture, What do you see as the biggest challenges faced by Montessori in Australia?
Look, I guess in terms of, as an operator, maybe we can look at this a bit more holistically. I think it's the communication or the alignment with the different bodies, speaking as one voice rather than,
Mhm.
I get approached by Montessori Australia, I get approached by others, and I feel the disconnect. And I think that disconnect wouldn't do anyone any good. I think just coming together, and I think you and I have had such discussions around this in the past, and I love your reasoning around why you think that is the case. Again, probably a topic for another session. But I
Mm.
think, yeah, just getting the organizations to be closer together rather than kind of compete and everybody trying to be the head.
Here. Yeah, thank you. Um, do you think long daycare makes it difficult to do authentic Montessori today? What are the advantages and disadvantages of long daycare? Do you think there's a bit of a stigma about long daycare
Mm.
among Montessorians?
Yeah, look, great question. And I think, this is a question that comes up a lot in the Montessori community. And look, from our perspective, we've had a lot of discussions around this at Montessori Academy, and we actually prefer to shift the conversation from authentic to traditional Montessori.
Mm.
We really don't like the use of the word authentic. We prefer to say traditional. And I think it's a small change in language, but we find it really helpful to respect the historical foundation while acknowledging that we need to adapt for the needs of the modern family. 2024 is not the 1900s. It's absolutely different. Mom and dad need to work. Both of them need to be at work. They can't leave work at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. So when people talk about traditional Montessori, I think they often mention things like, trained Montessori educators, a prepared environment with Montessori materials, extended work cycles, multi-age classrooms, and child-directed learning. So we consistently incorporate all of these elements in our centers. So the goal is to provide high quality Montessori education that respects the traditional principles, but that also meets the needs of the modern family. So we're constantly evaluating, improving our programs to ensure that we are offering the best Montessori experience within our long daycare model. And look, as you know, Mark, like, the results, when we see the results, or when we see our graduates moving on to big school, and what they're achieving there, when we receive letters from schools telling us, the children coming from you guys are amazing. They're so well adjusted. They're so well prepared. It is really, really rewarding to see that positive impact that the Montessori program or curriculum is having on these children. So I guess at the end of the day, we're focused on providing a valuable education experience that honors Dr. Montessori's vision while serving the realities of the modern family. So it's about finding, that balance and seeing the positive outcomes that we're seeing in the children today. That's
Mm.
that's my view.
Yeah. I think sometimes I think it's ironic that stigma about long daycare in the Montessori community, because Montessori herself started with long daycare in Rome. Are, are there any areas where you think Montessori needs to be updated to better fit the modern world?
Look, I mean, the core itself is, I don't think that needs to be updated. It works. It's brilliant. I think Dr. Montessori was way ahead of her time anyway. Back then, and but I think, as you said, that stigma. So I don't think we should get stuck on what used to happen 100 years ago. We just need to make sure that we find that balance, and we're offering to our families, a solution, to get them to live the best life. It's hard for parents these days. If you want to provide for your family, mom needs to work, dad needs to work. It's hard for everybody to leave, as I said, work at 2 p.m. And parents now are much more educated in terms of the research that they do, because as parents, we want the best for our children. I want to make sure that, my children are coming out of childcare or early learning happy, but at the same time, they're ready, they've learned. And I think that long day care model actually works really, really well. And that adaptation, or however it's evolved over the last few years, I think where we are today is actually quite good.
Mm. Sometimes when I've heard non-Montessori educators say that Montessori is stale, that it's backwards looking, um,
Hmm.
and not really adapted for the present conditions, or even the future. Have you ever experienced that criticism of Montessori from parents or educators?
From what I've seen, I would completely disagree with that. Parents love it. The feedback that we get, I get letters, I get emails every single day saying, thank you. And not me personally, but I see what is being sent to our educators, our center managers, to our area managers, saying, the changes that we're seeing in our children. It's funny. I was at the bank today, and just to sign some paperwork, and the bank manager came up to me and she said, I just want to say thank you. I just met you at your grand opening, and which was a few weeks ago, and I've moved my child to your new center there. And in here, I'm like, okay. I said, look, I'm so sorry. I know that it's not as settled as you would want it to be, because it's a brand new center. The team is building up. And she goes, no, no, no. What are you talking about? I love it. We've come from this center that is chaos, and what I walk into this classroom here and I see, it's incredible. And I said, look, yes, it is incredible compared to what you've seen, but from my perspective, this is still new and fresh, and we're building it. And this needs 2, 3, 4, 5 months for it to have that team, built properly, and everybody is working really well together. But thank you for the feedback. So I don't think it's stale. I think, as I said, we basically can't keep up. We've got a grand opening happening on Saturday, for a 84 place childcare center. There are 800 people on the RSVP that are coming. And we're just thinking, what do we do? Do we extend the open day to try and fit more people to come in? But at the same time, we don't want to get 1,000 or 1,500 people coming in, and we can't offer them spots. So that demand is incredible, and the word of mouth is just incredible. People love Montessori education. They love what their children are coming back home with, and they're telling their friends, and they're coming. And it's not a fade, because that's been happening since the year 2000, and year on year, I just see it growing and growing and growing. It's mind blowing.
I wanted to open it up to people, to our listeners here. Does anybody have a question or a comment they'd like to ask Rami? Here's your chance. Remember, he's very difficult to pin down.
I guess I'd like to ask about multi-site management and consistency of quality across multi-sites, how you as an organization undertake that.
Rami,
yeah, great question, Vicky.
You know Vicky?
We haven't met previously. Nice to meet you, Rami.
Likewise. And great question, Vicky. And this is, I think, one of the most important things as you're growing. How do you maintain that quality? And I was just saying to Mark earlier, I think it's all about embedding that training into your day-to-day operations. It's not about having a training calendar to say, I'm gonna get one speaker once a year to come and present. Like, I know from myself, if I go to a training and I learn something, and I'm very excited about it, and then I come back home, and then a week later you forget what to do. So it's all about ensuring that it's that repetition. You train and you train and you train and you train, and then you revisit and you assess and you audit, and you see what's working and what's not, and then you repeat it again, and then you slowly increase the dose, or you just keep adding more training. And I just think it's about embedding that training in your day-to-day practices. but also about auditing what is happening on the ground and having someone independent going in. And by independent, I don't mean external. It can be, you know, from within your organization, but someone that would go and know what they're looking for and ensure that, you know, that best practice is happening, and not to be scared to come back and say, you know what, it's not happening properly here, and we need to invest more in this particular location. Or, you know, cross-sharing resources. If you've got, you know, one location that runs, you know, a great standard, and you've got a new one that's not at the same level, you know, asking someone from this location to go spend, you know, a week or 2 or 3 or 4 in the other location and mentor, and then maybe, you know, promoting someone from a location that runs really well to say, okay, I've got an opportunity for growth for you. And this is where it becomes really, really nice when you've got that multi-site, because you can actually offer that growth opportunity to your team. You can say, you've done an amazing job as a room leader here. How about you go to this center here and become the second in charge? And how about then afterwards you go to this next center and you become the supervisor, now that you've got, you know, 7 years of experience in 2 centers, one that's been operational for a while, and, you know, one that's been ramping up, and you've gotten all that experience. So I think that's key. That's key.
Any other questions? Well, Rami, I know you have something that you need to go to, so time is short this evening, but maybe I'll just finish by asking you, can Montessori save the world? Do you see signs of hope?
Wow, okay. That's a thought-provoking question, Mark. Can Montessori save the world? Look,
that was her original vision, right? And you know,
I
reform
think
society from within. And we look around us now, and things don't look good in many parts of the world. You know, do you see signs of hope? And is Montessori?
look, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, can Montessori single-handedly save the world? No. Can Montessori play a very important role in doing so? I mean, absolutely. We're seeing very positive outcome in our graduates. We're seeing children that are very well prepared for further education, that are very well prepared for life challenges. I mean, these are the leaders of tomorrow. They're the doctors, they're the plumbers, they're the engineers, they're the scientists, they're the chefs that are going to shape our futures. And I think, in fact, we've seen some great examples of people that have changed the world, or at least the world as we know it. And these were Montessori graduates, like the founders of Google, you know, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, or the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos. And there's a lot of other examples, Nobel-winning graduates from Montessori, chefs. And these guys have changed the world in their own way. And I think, you know, changing the world is like the Atomic Habits, that book I referred to. It doesn't happen overnight. It's 1% at a time. And I think if we keep doing what we're doing, and others do the same, and Montessori education keeps growing, because we know the seed that we're planting is flourishing into something that's really, really special. And I think I'd love to see more of this, and I'd love to see more Montessori's opening, and I'd love to see more children getting access to Montessori, also especially in disadvantaged areas, and that's probably you know, a conversation with government in terms of funding, and how we can change the world, you know, on that end as well, and how we can support having more Montessori's opening in the remote areas, because they need it. And I think that's how we can play a role in changing the world.
Yeah. Well, Rami, thank you for everything that you do to bring Montessori to more families in Australia. And thanks again for your time this evening.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. That's right. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rami.
Thank you. Take care.
So, hey, Rami and Mark, I don't know if you're aware, the reason that it was quiet tonight was Eventbrite crashed. And so people were trying to log on to come and watch your session, but weren't able to access the link to Zoom.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Yeah, which is
What was
why
it
I
that
was
crashed, sorry?
late. Eventbrite. So Eventbrite is the platform we use to get the
Oh,
word out. And so
yes,
people
yes, yes,
registered for
yes.
Eventbrite. And generally Eventbrite will send like 5 minutes before the session, the link or whatever.
Mm.
It was completely down worldwide. So that's why it was
Oh,
quiet and people were late. Yeah. So apologies. I tried my best to quickly jump on the internet and spread the link around, but
I wondered,
nah,
I
all
was
good.
going to say, we started and it was just Rami and me. And I thought, wow, this is the first time
yeah.
ever that we've had nobody come. We've had like,
Yeah.
5 or 10 sometimes, but never nobody.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have
Unless you
thought
have
with
the
Rami,
link
we'd have, the multitudes and but
there
yeah.
were
So,
plenty of people on our Facebook going, I can't log in. I'm really
oh,
sorry what's going on. So
yeah.
apologies, Rami. It
Oh, no,
was
all
just
good, all good.
a crash.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks for clearing that up. That's
No worries.
interesting. And
The shame.
we have the
Yeah.
recording anyway. And Rami, it was a great, I really enjoyed interviewing you, and
Oh, thanks,
answers
Mark.
were spot on. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We'll
Have a
All right,
edit
great
have
one.
and we'll put it up soon.
done. Thank you so much. All right,
Bye,
take care.
guys.
Thanks,
See
Rami.
ya.
Bye,
Night.
bye.
Bye.